Welcome into the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. Jimmie Allen, Casey Matthews, Alex Drake with you here today. Creighton off to a hot start out in Storrs, Connecticut. Jays lead 35-28, led by Jimmie Allen, 17 points, and he's 7 of 8 from the field, 3 of 3 from beyond the arc. Right now, Jimmie is playing the best game we've ever seen him play in a Jays uniform. They have Dan Hurley and UConn on the ropes. Dan Hurley close to getting a technical foul there, close to the end of that first half. Casey Matthews, we've talked about this in the past. A lot of really great coaches kind of do this to try to get a reaction from their team, and the Huskies could really use it right now.
Oh, no question. I would say if they come out flat to start the second half, which I don't think they will, but if they do, Dan will get one and try to get his team fired up. It's I think I told the story about Jay Wright doing that to us a few years ago. Like it's a good move. It wouldn't shock me at all if he does that, but we'll see. I mean, if Jimmie scores 17 in the second half, Dan's going to need 5 technicals to get that team fired up enough to win this one, because that's it's going to be tough to beat Creighton with Jimmie scoring like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dan Hurley get a tech just to get a couple of different calls going his way. I'm going to take a little bit of exception to the TV announcers. They said this game wasn't very physical, and I totally disagree. The refs are just letting them play. So
I would disagree as well.
I'm glad you broached the subject, because I can't stand Donnie Marshall on games. I absolutely can't stand. I actually text our buddy, friend of the podcast, Aaron Torres. I texted him during the first half and told him, I was like, I can't stand Donnie Marshall on games. The whole the body language of the team changed during the national anthem. Are you kidding me? I was in college basketball for over 12 years. I can promise you I heard plenty of good national anthems, and not one time did our mentality or body language change when we heard the Star Spangled Banner. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, if you don't have anything to say, just don't talk. I was so frustrated, man.
It would be a lot better if they weren't talking. I mean, this is Creighton usually doesn't get awful TV broadcasts. This is right up there with a Colt McCoy college football broadcast early in the year. Like,
Jason's really good. I actually like Jason, but Donnie's awful. But anyway, let's get back to the game. We got to spin on waste our time.
Call me a company man all you want, but this is exactly why I keep the game on mute and listen to John Bishop's call.
There you go.
Thoughts with our good friend John Bishop, though. He's going through it today, boys. I know you're listening to the TV broadcast. He's a little under the weather, and his voice is not necessarily holding up. So we hope John's able to kind of get through this one, and hopefully it's a Jays win. And he loses his voice screaming Jays win, Jays win, Jays win at the end of it. But interesting stat today. Obviously, Ryan Kalkbrenner and Steven Ashwood slow starts out of the gate. Kalk with just 6. Steven just made 1-3 at this point. The Jays only have 8 points in the paint right now. The Huskies with 22 points, and that's interesting for a couple of reasons. That's where Creighton funnels all their defense too, and it usually does a really good job turning things away. But UConn speed kind of getting the better of Creighton's 3s and 4s, getting inside of the paint. I would have assumed if UConn was dominating the paint in this fashion at this point in the game, it would have been bad news for the Jays. But surprisingly enough, Creighton with a 7-point lead. Casey, what do you think of I mean, obviously we talk about drop coverage, the way Kalk defends it. Is it surprising you how much success UConn has had in the paint and how much it really hasn't factored into this game?
No, that's a great question. I think, number one, they're not settling for that mid-range pull-up from the elbow, which a lot of teams do because they don't know. Here's the difference, though. UConn has gone against bigs like this forever. If you look at the list of bigs they've had over the past 3, 4, 5 years, they've had dominant big men inside, and when you practice against it all the time, you're way more comfortable. The other side of it is this is like if you saw that interview with Dan yesterday, this is the 5th year they're playing against Kalkbrenner.
Sure.
They know how to play against Ryan, and certainly we're 7-2 against him. But at the same time, they've had some success where we've been able to take advantage of them. It's from the 3-point line, which I'm sure we'll get to. But what I've been impressed with UConn is they're not settling and they're really attacking the rim, but they're not necessarily they're reading Ryan Kalkbrenner. And if Ryan will help, then they'll dish it off. But Ryan's staying with the role, and so then they're able to just really try to go and attack. We've got to do a better job of guarding the ball, and we've got to do a better job of getting through those ball screens and not putting Ryan in that almost no man's land spot where he's got to make a choice. And then, you saw a couple back cuts and things. There's things that we can clean up, but ultimately, if they're trying to beat us from 2 and we're beating them from 3, I like the numbers game on that. As long as we continue to shoot the ball well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's obviously been a few breakdowns on that pick and roll, but Creighton's playing with an edge on defense at a different level than I've seen most games this year. I mean, I don't think it's going to be talked about enough. Ryan Kalkbrenner diving after that loose ball
Huge.
that led to another possession, right?
That's 2 games in a row he's been able to do that as well.
And then you have Stephen Ashworth, who narrowly misses a steal and then gets back in on help side on an inside pass because they're afraid of Kalkbrenner and knocks it out of bounds, which leads to 1 of 2 shot clock violations. I mean, Creighton's playing with an edge on the defensive end that, there's been a couple of breakdowns, but they're being a lot more aggressive in areas. Jemiah and Steven are doing a great job chasing guys off of screens. They've earned, I think, 3 moving screen fouls tonight. It's just what they're doing on the defensive end has forced UConn to scramble a lot more when we're on offense too. And Mason Miller's come up with a couple of huge plays on that end, even though he's only got an assist and a rebound, just keeping balls alive that led to the 1 Stephen Ashworth 3. This Creighton team's playing with an energy and an edge today that hopefully, regardless of what happens in the second half, they carry it the rest of the season.
Casey, you brought it up right now. Outside, Jemiah Neal, perfect for me on the arc, 3 of 3, but outside of his shooting, Creighton just 3 of 12 from 3-point land. Stephen Ashworth, 1 of 4. Isaac Trout, who was 4 of 4, obviously in his previous game at home, just 1 of 3 as well. Ryan Kalkbrenner has attempted 1 and has missed as well. It's incredible to me that Creighton is firing on all cylinders offensively, with how well or how poorly they're shooting the 3-point ball right now. And we've heard the moniker that Creighton can't win without hitting 3-point shots. They live and die. # let it fly. All of that. I think this is exactly what Greg McDermott and this coaching staff has been looking for out of Jemiah Neal. Maybe not necessarily 7 of 8 from the field, but giving them just another presence offensively inside the paint, or at least making defenders account for a third body in this offense.
Yeah, here's what's interesting, right? We talked about this the other day, and it's a stat that, like, I'm a stat guy and analytics guy. I love that stuff. But UConn is so good at taking away assisted field goals, okay? And I think I don't know what their percentage is off the top of my head, but we're assisting on 50% of our field goal attempts right now, okay? So if we can do that and run offense like that, we're gonna be fine offensively. Obviously, I don't expect Jemiah to have another 17-point second half, but what I do expect is, I think what Coach is talking about is not settling, not taking a bunch of threes off the dribble, working for the open shots, taking the open shots. If we do that, we'll be absolutely fine. They're going to foul. We know that. We know the way they play perimeter defense. They're gonna put us on the line. So we got to hit our free throws as well. And I think we're good. I mean, I really think for me in this second half, if I look forward, what's the key is it sounds silly, but like, you got to keep the crowd out of the game. And that place will go bananas when they get on a roll. And then it's like, can you withstand it? Are you going to succumb to the emotion that's in that building or not? Luckily, we have an older team that I really think we can withstand that. But you can't just keep taking haymakers from them, letting the crowd get into it. At some point, you got to silence them, and they're going to make a run. You know that. So how do you withstand that? That's what I'm really looking forward to in the second half.
Casey, you brought up a huge stat, right? 50% on made baskets and assists. Building off of that, I think the huge key is the lack of turnovers. We're at a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Turnovers have been a big problem for us this year at times. And I know I've kind of beat the drum
really it probably should only be 2, because that one from Jason just went off his foot. I mean, it was just kind of a bang play.
And I mean, I've beat the drum a lot this year that some of these turnover situations look a lot worse than they are, because they're aggressive turnovers, putting pressure on the defense, but they're absolutely taking care of the ball today. Yeah. And I think that is ultimately the biggest one of the several biggest things happening. And then everybody is contributing in various ways. You're seeing contributions on the defensive end from guys that don't play a ton of minutes. Shane Thomas, great foul there at the end, right? Like, just burned up that one on the dribble. Thank God there's not a continuation, right? But you're seeing everybody, and the bench is electric too today. The bench looks great on the bench. Like they're keeping the team engaged.
If you can't be in, if you're not in this one, I mean, I'm telling you, like that place is so fun. $2 beers today. Like it's like it's a great place to play college basketball.
The video coordinating staff ever indulge in the festivities in Storrs for $2 beer day?
Not pregame.
We mentioned the physicality of the game to kind of open up the podcast. Creighton has not allowed the Huskies to get to the free throw line in the entire first half. The home team has not attempted a free throw. Alex, you talked about the turnovers. They only have Creighton only has 3 turnovers. They've only given up 3 personal fouls as well. So just both teams playing really disciplined. However, the Jays been to the free throw line twice, and they are 5 for 5 from the free throw stripe, including a rare appearance from Isaac Trout at the free throw line. Nails all 3 of them. You like to see IT get in there and taking care of business. This is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
You got to keep them off the offensive glass, Jim. We didn't get into that, but
we're gonna get to keys. Hang
okay.
on.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were wrapping up, man. I'm like,
Casey has to get it out.
Brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. Don't forget you can donate to your favorite Creighton athlete by scanning the QR code in your top right corner. Donate to Creighton's NIL collective, the Bird Club. All proceeds will go to Creighton Athletics as well as benefiting this podcast. Second half is underway really quick. Casey, offensive glass, I think is going to be your key to the second half, but go ahead.
Offensive glass, and then limit their threes and limit their dunks. Okay, you don't want to let this crowd get into this game.
Alex, key to the game.
For me, is weather the storm. There's going to be a market correction from the officials. There always is. So you're going to put them at the line a few times here early. You have to get to the line. You got to stay solid on defense and just weather the storm, whether it's from the crowd or the change in officiating. That's just how the game works sometimes.
To me, you got to get Ryan Kalkbrenner going. I'd like to see him get at least the first few touches here in the second half, and I think that'll open up Stephen Ashworth. Your big 2 have got to get things going. You can't rely on just Jimmie Neal to close it out here. But we are going to close out the podcast now, Casey. I know you've been waiting for it, but don't forget you can join Alex Drake and myself on 1620 The Zone immediately following the game, and John Bishop's call 402-951-1620. We love your thoughts. This has been the Roll Jays podcast. Don't forget to follow us on socials and subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll see you next week to recap this game. Roll Jays.